fine. Or I can.
Hi everyone, we're live with George Vondriska, Managing Editor at WWGOA.com, and we want to apologize for our late start. Had some technology issues. It's great when it works. When it doesn't work, it kind of sucks. But we're going to stay here late for you guys. We're going to give you the full hour. So if you don't know how this works, you just type your questions in. We'll get them to George and he'll answer them. And maybe we'll have Kayleen McCabe with us.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a sec, Krista. So we had Kayleen McCabe was our guest tonight, and I got information from her about an hour ago. She was in a bad accident. She lives out in Colorado. She was in a car accident. May or may not be able to join us. So we're just gonna have to play that by ear and see what happens. She's okay, but logistics of being in an accident, she may not be available to come in tonight. All right, so we have burned up some time already. What can we do? What can we answer? What can we tell them?
Okay, the first question we have comes straight from Alan. He would like to know if you could recommend a two-sided tape. He has tried some that don't seem to work very well. Okay,
so two-sided tape. George is here to help, but George Jr., but I'm gonna grab this. Leaving the camera for a second, I'm gonna grab this because it's close by. So what Alan, right, Alan?
Alan
is talking about double-face tape. I use this all the time, but you do have to have a good one. So it's sticky there, and then if I peel off that face, it's sticky there as well, hence the name double-face tape. I do not buy this at home centers. I buy it at woodworking specialty stores like Woodcraft, Rockler, and with this product, it really holds. So this particular one is called Spec Tape, S-P-E-C-T-A-P-E, and amazing holding power. And a couple of qualifiers. The material has to be clean. If it's got dust on it, then you're not going to have, it's not going to want to adhere. It's got to be warm. So up here in Wisconsin, if your shop is cold, the material and the tape have to come up to temperature. Otherwise, it's not going to grab. Let's move on.
All right. The next question we have comes from Ryan, maybe. He says, it's cold in his garage this time of year. Should he worry about odor of wipe-on poly in the house? Because it sounds like there might be a little one inside, a child.
Oh, yeah, I'd be real careful about that. So any kind of off-gassing from finish or even some woods are worse than others as far as reactivity goes. Walnut, cocobolo, stuff in the rosewood family like cocobolo. So yeah, if the question is it's too cold to do finishing in the garage, can I do it in the house? I would recommend against that. And a particulate filter is not the answer for that. Some air filters have carbon filters that will take the fumes and stuff out of the air. So that might be an alternative. If you can really get in a confined area, get a carbon filter so it's not filtering all or migrating, what I meant to say, all over the house. I'd be real careful about that, especially with little kids.
Wonderful, thank you. Our next question comes from Bill. He would like to know how you blend sapwood in walnut.
Sapwood. All right, I'm gonna get wood. George, we need the aerosol can of walnut toner, please. Yes, sir. So this is a great question. I love working with walnut and cherry. There's George Jr. Thank you, sir. And part of the problem with those woods can be, hey, I'm going to ask you to do one more thing, George, because there's a piece of cherry right over here. Can you get that for me? Part of the problem with walnut and cherry can be the desirable part is the heartwood. That's the real traditional, yep, that's our cherry color or walnut color, thank you, that we want. That's heartwood. This is sapwood. This is cherry, not walnut. So if we use this in a project, do we want to leave it that way or do we want to get rid of that? What I have in my hands, can you do a zoom on us there, Krista, on the product? This is a toner. Which one?
That's perfect.
Okay. This is a toner, and we're going to apply it in just a second here by it's aerosol. And I would have to actually read the directions. I think the right way to do this is we get a base coat on here first, a clear coat, like a de-wax shellac would be perfect, and then go over the top of that with the toner. That gives you better control. I don't have a coat of shellac on this, but it'll give you a good idea of what the color control we can get out of this is. Are you zoom back out now or right in this area for us? Thank you. So if I was actually doing this for cherry, what I would do is I would have a cherry toner for my cherry board with that top coat already on here. I could then wipe off this part that's over here on my heartwood, leaving just the dark color and the sapwood. And if I needed to, do another coat until that color matches that color. So this particular one, the brand is Valence, and it's just it's an aerosol toner. Works really well for matching those colors.
Okay, next question. Could you, what is the best glue for gluing leather to wood? That is from Jerry.
Leather glue?
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. If I had to do it tomorrow, I think yellow glue would do it. You have to have, for yellow glue to work, you got to have porosity on both surfaces. Yellow glue would give a bond, then would it leave the leather really stiff where that bond was formed? I'm not sure. CA glue would do it. I don't have a great answer for you, Terry. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Ross would like to know, percentage-wise, how much more holding power does a Domino joiner have versus a biscuit joiner? He's asking because his PC biscuit joiner is his go-to joining technique so far, and it's also in his budget.
Okay. So George, I think on those Festool boxes right there by the, yep, I think those are, or no, you got to go back further. Keep going back in that direction, and there's turn left, go back to where you were. Yep. And I think those boxes that are kind of on the floor there have Festool dominoes in them. I think you're in the right spot. By your left foot, I think. Because ironically, I had it out earlier today. So you get a domino, I'm going to grab a biscuit. This is a great question. And then, Krista, we're going to need some zoom power from you. And any one of those pieces of wood, George, any one of those dominoes would be okay. Yep. All right, so here's the dealio. Biscuits, of course, have been around for a really long time. Thank you. And what happens with this, how tight are you here, Kristen? Okay. Half of this product is going into one piece of wood and half is going into the other piece of wood. So the thing to think about here is how much penetration are we getting into each of our mating pieces. This is a domino. Now, yes, it's narrower than the biscuit from my left to right, but look at how much longer it is. So for me, I would equate the dominoes much more to a traditional mortise and tenon joint because we have, what do you need? Like on the bench down?
No, like by your, yeah, right there's fine, thanks.
Okay. The penetration into the material we get from the domino is much more similar to what we get from a traditional mortise and tenon. As a percentage, how much stronger is it? I don't have a number for you. I would use dominoes on something that's going to see a lot of abuse, like a chair gets dragged around, sit in it, rock in it. I would be hesitant to join a chair with dominoes with biscuits because of that shallow penetration. So dominoes are quite a bit stronger, but I'm with you. Biscuit jointers are quite a bit less expensive than a domino, but we do get a lot more strength out of a domino joint.
Okay.
Hey, let me throw something out there. Two things. One, I always like to ask where you're watching from because that's cool to see. Two, we're trying a new microphone tonight, so if you've watched before and you think the audio is better, worse, or the same, I'd appreciate knowing an answer to that. All
okay,
right.
Good. Ray would like to know, how do I transfer a drawing to a template? I have seen one answer that indicates carbon paper, which seems a bit cumbersome. If I put it under each line, it might move and make a mess. Is there another way, or could you demonstrate the process?
This is a great question, George. I need from you, I'm going to have George get 3 things, then we're going to start on another question because there's going to be a little prep time. So from this side of the shop, up on those cabinets, there's that Reindeer. And then while you're working back in this direction, right on this, by the miter saw, there's a household iron, right in front of you, iron. And then on this table, there's a Reindeer pattern on top of that little tray. Yep. And that board on the floor will work for us. Yep. And then throw me another question, Krista, and I'm gonna, what we have to do is this iron has to heat up. Thanks. So we can fill a little time while we're waiting for heat here.
Okay, so we have a couple questions actually today about outdoor furniture. I think we may have answered these before, but let's just do it again while this is heating up. And it's what glue to use on outdoor furniture, outdoor projects.
Blue and green, please. Wrong way. This side. I'm sending George for 2 bottles of glue, waterproof and water resistant. So in my shop, I use a lot of Type Bond 2, Type Bond 3. Type Bond 2 is, I thought you were going to do it. Type Bond 2 is water resistant. Type Bond 3 is waterproof. So if something is just going to sit outside like an Adirondack chair, it's going to get wet every once in a while. A water resistant glue is going to be just fine. If you're building a planter where it's going to be damp all the time, Type Bond 3 is better because it's waterproof. So the answer to that question is it depends. If you just go with the Type Bond 3 all the time, you're going to be fine because it's going to stand up to all of that moisture resistance. Type Bond 3 also has a little bit higher heat resistance, which if you're doing something like a cutting board, you're subsequently going to wash with hot water. The Type Bond 3 stands up to that a little bit better.
Great, thank you very much. And just a reminder, we are here with George Vondriska, Managing Editor at WWGOA, Woodworkers Guild of America. Go to our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, and make sure you visit our webpage, WWGOA.com. It looks like you might be ready.
I think so. And
okay.
If you came in late and you're looking for Kayleen, she had a bit of a car accident out in Colorado today, and we're hoping she's fine. We're hoping to still hear from her, but it messed up the logistics of her logging in. So here's what I've got. A pattern for this Reindeer. This is compound cutting on the bandsaw. So now maybe we want to transfer this pattern to a piece of 1/4 inch plywood so that we can cut out the plywood, use it as a pattern. The key to what I'm about to do working is that this needs to come off of a laser printer or a photocopier. I don't think it'll work with an inkjet printer. So you could print on an inkjet, then take the thing to some place where you can get a photocopy. This then goes on your material, lines down. The iron is on its hottest setting, and I'm going to go fast here so we'll see what we get. I'm leaning on it just a little bit. This is a little bit more of a art than a science, that being how long should I stay here? And the answer is, I don't know. I'm going to do a little bit of a peel to see what we have. Needs a little more time there. So what's happening here is that the heat and pressure of the iron is transferring the line, and for the sake of time here, I'm going to pull this and we'll do a reveal. Ready for the big reveal, Krista? All right.
Cool.
So if I had stayed over that a little bit longer, we'd have a little bit more line, but that's followable. Now let me do a little coolio thing here, since we have the Reindeer out. We're doing a contest via Facebook. So if you want to have the opportunity for a 30-minute FaceTime or Skype session one-on-one with me, get your questions answered, you can show me stuff in your shop, we can chat, we can do whatever you want to do, we can play guitar. Go on Facebook. What we want to see is a picture of your Reindeer. So we've got the video where these are made. We've got the pattern available. That's free. You cut out a Reindeer, you take a picture of it, you submit it on Facebook. Random drawing is going to happen after Christmas, somewhere around the 28th. So make sure you look for that. And then, like I said, the winner's going to get a half-hour one-on-one via Skype or FaceTime with me.
All right. While you're just kind of getting situated, we have a lot of people saying the audio sounds a bit better. So
good.
That's good. Okay. We also have quite a few questions coming in tonight about finishing products indoor because of the cold. People want to know, like that, we already had that one question, is it okay to do it inside, especially if I have a little kid? Other people want to know, what are some products I can use to finish inside that have low odor, if any?
Yeah, boy, it's tough. I'm going to say, you know, furniture oils tend to be like Watco products, Watco oil, Danish oil, maybe are a little bit more benign than lacquer is probably the worst. Very, very strong odor. Polyurethane is right up there. I just don't, I'll take advice from this on people who are constantly working in their basement shops. I'll take answers because I just don't have a great answer for this, and I don't want to throw advice out there that's going to leave odors in your house. I'm lucky to have a separate building where I can do my woodworking and my finishing, so it's really not a concern for me. So I don't know if listeners, if viewers have answers for us and can help us on finishing indoors, we'll take that help. I'll say this, I'm switching to water-based stuff in my shop right now, and the water-based stuff has significantly lower odor than the lacquer that I used to use.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we just have a lot of questions coming in about that.
Yeah.
Tis the season. Okay, so Dave would like to know, he wants to use epoxy as a glue on white oak frames on a small hydroplane boat. He's heard that white oak and epoxy do not go well together. What do you recommend?
And why is that? So this is the science question of the day for you folks. What does white oak have? What does red oak have that not every wood has as much of? This also has to do with ebonizing wood. If we put iron acetate on it, it works great on the oaks because it's got a lot of tannins in it. So on this one, this is a question that came in ahead of time. So if my buddy Mark Pugh is watching, Mark is actually becoming a boat builder. He was my college roommate, tech ed teacher for 32 years. So I called a friend on this, and the key to this is you really have to abrade the pieces. You've really got to rough up the parts before the epoxy goes on in order for it to generate a bond. If you do that, then according to the boat building world, you should be okay. For future live, we're going to try to get Mark at the boat building school on the live with a camera in his shop to participate in one of our live shows. So more on that when we get to it. You can watch for an article that Mark wrote about his experience learning about wooden boats. That'll be on Woodworkers Guild site, maybe January or February.
Thank you very much, George. And just a reminder, I'm with George Vondriska, managing editor of Woodworkers Guild of America. Visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and our webpage. Okay, our next question comes from Brad. Brad is building a desk out of rough sawn walnut and needs some direction on how to best choose and match up walnut graining variances for various panels. Currently, he is choosing grain patterns in the panel styles and rails that look most appealing for front-facing pieces. Do you have a secret to getting the best look out of a piece of furniture when you use a highly figured wood like walnut? He will be using a clear satin finish and no stain.
Okay, I'm going to get a visual aid. Be right back. All right, so Krista, what we need on this, we want to be able to see the grain here somewhere. So if it's washing out, if I need to tilt or roll, let me know.
No, I think you're fine.
Okay, so here's what I look for on this kind of thing. This is red oak. It's got a much more dramatic, bigger grain pattern here than it does out here. If I'm doing frame and panel and it sounds like that's Brad's desk. Could be cabinet doors, or it could be just a piece of frame and panel furniture. What I look for is for the outer edges of these pieces where the grain is really straight. I want these to be my frame pieces. Face frame on a cabinet, frame on a door. And the reason for that is that in narrow frame pieces, if you've got real wild, real dramatic grain, it kind of runs in and out of the piece all the time, and it doesn't, I think, look as nice. So then, on a piece like this, I might rip 1 or 2 rails and stiles off the outside. Then this part here, where the grain is more dramatic, I save those pieces for the panels. And then I'm going to do an edge-to-edge glue up with all of these more dramatic pieces to get the width of panel that I want. So calm grain for the frames, the prettier, the more wild grain for the panels. And then I try to keep that concentric. So in other words, if I'm gluing up a panel and it's going to take 3 pieces, I'd like to have the most cathedral, the most flame, the most drama in that center panel.
Okay. While you're putting that away, I'm going to throw this one out from Joe. Joe says when he cuts a groove or dado on the table saw, the depth on the back side is not the same depth as the front, even though the blade is locked down. What could be causing this?
I think it's a hold down thing, Joe. So from where you are, no, good one, Kristen. All right. So let's head for the table saw. I've seen this. I've seen what you're talking about, especially on wider material. And I'm going to say, especially if you're cutting plywood, and plywood can have a tendency to not be perfectly flat. So what you can run into is that if you've got bows in the plywood, the table is flat, the blade is set to just the right height, but because of high spots in the plywood, it's kind of going up and down on its own as it goes over the dado head. So a couple things out of this. One is making sure you have good hold down pressure. That's never going to come from your hand. It needs to come from some kind of a hold down device. This 20 extra points to the person who gets this right. What was this in its first life? This is actually a grout float. They have these at home centers. I love them for hold down pads. Big surface, it's rubbery, it's very sticky. You can really get a lot of pressure on this, big handle to hold on to. So as I'm feeding, especially a large piece of plywood over the table saw over a dado head, I really want to make sure that I'm holding down, feeding the cut. Move my pad back, feed the cut. Move my pad back, feed the cut. So my hold down pressure is always right here, immediately adjacent to the blade. Now, you don't want to stop while you're cutting because that's going to introduce burns. So there's quite a ballet that has to go on here. Keep the part moving, even while you're moving your pad back. Your left hand is going to keep it going, keep it moving, so that you always have that consistent down pressure.
Can you do that again, please?
Yep. So we want to down pressure, move forward. My left hand then is going to keep it moving while I reposition my right. Down pressure, keep moving, left hand moves it forward. So we're always toggling between those 2 hands, but the prominent down pressure is coming from this pad. The other thing you can do if the cuts are close to your dado fence or your rip fence is we can put an auxiliary fence on. I don't have one right here, but we'll describe it.
This is great because Pessy just asked, what is the reason for having an auxiliary fence on your table saw?
Okay.
Perfect, 2 in 1.
So let's hit a couple things. If this auxiliary fence were higher and I cut a 3/4 inch dado in it, one of the things I'd be able to do is get my featherboard facing in the right direction. This could go into a 3/4 inch dado in my auxiliary fence. That could also provide hold down pressure so the plywood stays flat, or whatever I'm cutting the dado in stays flat, so I get a consistent depth of dado. To do this, you need a sacrificial fence that's fairly high so that we have room to get the featherboard on there. Sacrificial fences in general let me unplug here. And I'm going to pull this off. And I think first, if you could come forward this way and watch my extension cord will be in your way. So you can get a little bit more sideways. So one of the things that happens, especially when we're using a dado head sometimes, that's good, is we get in a scenario where the dado head, if I'm cutting a rabbet, would have to be really, really close to the rip fence. And I don't want to take a chance that that blade is going to hit my face of my fence. So thankfully we can see that that face on my fence is still nicely unscarred. With the sacrificial fence, I can clamp that in place. It's got a scallop cut out of it. Scallop isn't quite going to match up because this is a 10-inch blade, and normally a dado head is, on this saw, is an 8-inch dado head. However, if I do something like this, you can see that I can get that sacrificial fence really, really close to the blade, and there's zero risk of that blade hitting my real fence. So primarily a sacrificial fence is going to come into play when you're using a dado head, and real specifically with the dado head when you're cutting rabbets.
Cool. Thank you. And just a reminder again, I'm sure you guys are getting sick of this, but I'm here with George Vondriska, managing editor for
Sick of George Vondriska already? It's only been like 20 minutes.
WWGOA.com. We are going to stay late for you guys tonight because we were late coming on. So we're probably going to go about 8:30 Central Time, just so you guys know. Anybody who's coming in late, don't worry. We still have plenty of time.
Walk this way and get a drink of water.
Okay, well, while you do that, I'm going to read you a question that Craig has. He would like to know the best way to prep reclaimed wood prior to starting a job.
Well, it depends on how much prepping there is to do. I'm going to go back here and grab a stick of wood, one of my favorites.
While you're doing that, we've got viewers from Australia, California, Ohio, Michigan, Mississippi.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
A wonderful geographic spread. That's very cool. All right, reclaimed wood, one of my favorite things to work with, as some of you might know. This is a piece of ponderosa pine. Its first life was in a warehouse someplace, some form of shelving maybe. Taken out, cleaned up, resold. What do I really like about this? One of the things I just think is crazy cool is that this wood was used in about 1920. So on some of these pieces, when you look at the growth rings, there might be 200 growth rings out here. So harvested in 1920, 200 growth rings. It was a baby in 1720. Isn't that cool? You're holding a piece of wood that was a sapling in 1700. On the prep side, you got to be careful of a couple things. One is, hey George, can I get you to do something? In the top of that top tray of that black tool chest, there is a metal detector. It's a new one. It's not the style that we had before, but it should be laying right on top. Yep. Okay. On the prep side, what I want you to be real careful about is any paint that's on these things. Thank you, sir. Because we never know if that old paint is lead-based. My preference is the supplier from whom I get this will clean it up for me. I pay a little bit more money for that, but I'm letting them deal with any kind of hazmat stuff because I don't know what kind of paint might be on these. Next thing, we want to be real careful about fasteners. It is, come on out of there. There we go. Well worth the investment to get a metal detector. Here it's buzzing for me, telling me there's metal in the bench. So before I use anything that's reclaimed, we want to wand over that to make sure there's no metal in it. Get that removed before you run it through any of your tools. The other thing, like any material, is you got to let it acclimate to your shop. Even though this stuff is old, it's still got to get used to this environment. So make sure you give it ample time, at least 24 hours. Longer is better, so that it can get used to this environment. Big thing really out of this is the paint. You really got to be careful about dealing with anything that's got paint on it because of the lead possibilities.
Okay, wonderful. Neil would like to know, what is the best way to try and straighten warped or twisted lumber? What would be the best way, if any, to bend wood that would be about 3/4 inch wide and about 1/8 to 3/16 inches thick for lamination? He soaked them in hot water and also steamed them, and more times than not, the wood often breaks on tight radiuses. Both will work, but he breaks more wood than he uses. Any solutions?
Okay, so I was looking for a piece of, this piece got a little bit of a warp in it. So when you ask, how can I straighten warped or twisted wood? Well, you really can't. So if the wood cut, twisted, bowed, took on any of those defects, trying to force it back to straight, it's just going to spring back to that cup or twist or bow when it has the opportunity to do so. So this is, you know, kind of the big deal with face jointing material, is that if, like this board, it's got a little rock and roll to it, if I run this over a jointer, if I face joint this, I can get that bottom face dead straight and dead flat. Then, sequence of events, I can take that to a planer, and with that dead flat face down, I can plane the top face until it's parallel to the bottom face. So part of the key to that is you don't joint a face and then flip and joint a face, because you can get them both straight and flat, but you don't know if they're parallel. So the right event, the right sequence is joint, then plane, or a surface sander would be fine. So you can't really, once it goes, you can't bring it back. You got to cut the defects out. Then, George, I'm going to have you bring that, hanging on the edge of that set of shelves, past a little Delta bandsaw, there is a plywood, big plywood triangular thing. And if you can find your way back there, that'll be the first end. Right next to that yellow 6-foot level. That's the thing that we want. It's on this end of the shelves, past that lathe. So what I've got George going after is what's a thing I made for what is called hot pipe bending. Perfect, that's it. So here's how this works. It's pretty cool. Shop-made device that also then uses a propane torch. Thanks, sir. So I think this is a good angle for you, Krista. So pipe from a home center, screwed into a flange. The flange is bolted into this vertical. This whole business down here is so that I can nest a propane tank with the top of the propane torch here, such that it's blowing into the pipe. And then this whole gizmo is going to go into a vise. The way this works is that you soak your material at least overnight. And this approach works great for the thin stuff you're talking about, 1/8 inch, 3/16, 1/4 inch thick. Air dried material bends better than kiln dried material. So soak it overnight, get the torch flowing in here. Then you come to this and start literally just bending it over that hot pipe. Spritz a little water on it to make sure it stays nice and wet. Bend some more, spritz a little water, bend some more. And it's a little bit like, if you can imagine grabbing a piece of red hot steel, which would be horrible, but just taking that red hot steel bar and it's malleable so you can start to bend it. So same thing here is that heat hits the water in the wood. You can start to bend it, form it, bend it, form it, and just being real careful. If you overbend it, of course, you're still going to break it. So hot pipe steam bending, and I'm pretty sure that we have got video on this on WWGOA.com, and if you just search hot pipe steam bending, you'll find it.
Great, thank you so much, George. Just want to remind everybody that we're staying a little late tonight, about half an hour more because we got started late. I'm also seeing a lot of home improvement questions, and I know we were going to have Kayleen on. She's kind of the home improvement guru, but she was in a car accident. She's fine, but I don't know if she's going to join us or not. So are we going to try and get her again maybe next time? Okay.
Maybe 3 will be the time. So when Kayleen was not with us last time, the event there, the power went out at her house. So technology is great, but if you don't have electricity, you don't have a router and you don't have a laptop. So that we lost it last time, and then this time with the car accident. So we will try again.
So we're seeing your questions about the home improvement. It's just, we want to save those for Kayleen. So just so you guys know, I see you're posting them on here. And I think they'd be best to wait. If we can get her on, that'd be really awesome. And we do have quite a few questions from viewers. They would like to know what is the best lowest temperature that they can heat their garage for staining. This seems to be a theme today.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of finishing.
Yeah.
Somewhere around 50 degrees. And I hate to say this, but you might have to read the directions, because it probably says on the back of the can that do not apply in temperatures less than X. It could be 60 degrees. So it's probably nothing lower than 50. And that's just not going to work. So somewhere around 50 or 60 degrees, but either read the can, or most manufacturers today have a customer service number or email connection, and you can shoot that particular manufacturer of that particular product your question and get the finite answer from them. But gluing and finishing, you've got to have relatively warm temperatures in your shop.
Perfect. And we're not really recommending inside if you're using a lot of stinky finishes.
Yeah, we really want to stay away from the VOCs, volatile organic compounds, in your living space.
Yeah, we've had quite a few questions about that tonight.
But if anybody's got suggestions on good finishes to use in those indoor environments, we'll take them.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, Joe would like to know, when routing wood and the router burns the wood, should the router speed be turned up, or should it be turned down to stop the wood from burning? Usually
your speed has to be turned up. So what I mean by that is, there we go. All right. So if I'm routing an edge and I very carefully cut slowly, I'm probably going to get burning on that edge. So we need to move at a rate where the router bit can successfully remove the material. We're not going so fast that we're getting lousy cut quality, but generally burning is an indication of probably feeding the router too slowly, or the bit is dull, or the bit is dirty. Can't say enough about keeping cutting tools clean. This is table saw blades, dado heads, router bits, drill bits. If you work with resinous woods like pine or cherry, you can get a sap buildup on the cutter, and a symptom of that can also be burns on the material. So I wouldn't worry so much about changing the RPM of the router. I would, on a piece of scrap, just try, can I feed a little faster and still get cut quality without getting the burning, or maybe I need to sharpen my router bits or clean my router bits.
Okay, while you're putting that away, we have a really quick question. Going back to the transfer earlier, someone would like to know, what temperature was your iron?
As hot as it'll go.
As hot as it would go. I knew that would be an easy one.
And here's the really good news. Irons are like a dime a dozen at thrift stores, because who iron clothes anymore? So it's, I think I have 2 or 3 of them in the shop, and I paid 50 cents a piece for them at garage sales. So it's a very handy thing to have in the shop.
Okay. All right. Doug would like to know, what are some of the issues with using thin stock, a 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch, to build boxes and other small projects? He uses cherry, walnut, white oak, etc. Are there issues? Have you had issues?
So.
No issues.
I think if you want to make a small scale project, you need small scale material. So resaw it from 3/4 inch stock, plane it or sand it smooth, and you should be okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm missing something in the question, but.
Well, if Doug's still on, maybe you want to add to your comment.
Yeah, if you can clarify a little bit. But think of a cigar box is made from 1/8 inch wood. So.
Okay. Dennis would like to know, is there a tool to show the correct tension on a scroll saw blade? Tightening the blade until it sounds like a C note doesn't seem to work for him. His vision is a gauge that shows how many pounds it takes to flex the blade.
Yeah, there's tension meters out there. I don't know about a scroll saw. Yeah, well, no, I don't think we need to, because Krista's pointing to the bandsaw, which is not a bad idea, but you can get blade tensionometers, maybe they're called, for bandsaw blades. I don't know if you can get it for something as small scale as a scroll saw blade. And I'm with you, it's hard. I don't use a scroll saw all the time, so it's hard for me to subjectively do that tensioning by plucking the blade, but still that's what I do. And if it breaks, it was too high, which I know you hate to test stuff to the point of failure, but I've never seen one for a scroll saw. Google might be your friend on that. Look for what other devices are out there to help you set the tension, because you don't want to have a tension deficit on a scroll saw.
Okay.
That was a little joke.
Okay. We have a couple finishing questions.
Again?
Yeah, I know, everyone's about the finishing.
Oh, you know why? What time of year is it?
It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas time, so everybody's cranking projects out and trying to get them done before Santa comes.
Probably. Craig wants to know, what is the best way to finish hardwoods like Padu, am I saying? Paduk, Purple Heart, Zebra Wood, and that's one question. I think maybe we can roll it into two.
Tropical woods.
We have somebody too who's been turning pens, and the finish is kind of dull when they're done turning the pen.
So I'm going to do number 2 first. So George, the Mylands Turner's finish that's in that finishing cabinet, and then I'll hit on the first one. Yes. I
was just going to tell you while he's getting that, we have a lovely comment from a viewer who says he finally found this video cast. He absolutely loves the episodes, and thank you so much for what you do.
Well, thanks for tuning in, because if people don't watch, we won't do this. So we need to have views. And here's the phenomenon, Krista, right, is we get a lot of viewers live.
Yeah.
And then the clicker count, crazily, the clicker count overnight goes through the roof. So we archive this on YouTube, and between 9 o'clock tonight and 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, there'll be like 5,000 more views, which is really cool. And I don't know where those people are now, or they're not watching us live, but that's okay, working. As long as they get a chance to watch. It's I think it's about even on your eye level right now. It's about where it should be, possibly behind those aerosol cans.
And that's kind of a good thing to note too. If you came in late or you got sick of waiting for us because of our technology problems, you can watch this on YouTube, and you can like kind of scroll through it. Like, so for the viewer who was wondering about the transfer, if you happen to come in late and you were like, what is he talking about with the iron? You can go on YouTube and you can just kind of back up to it. Pause it.
Pause is a wonderful thing.
Yep.
All right, George is still looking for the finish.
Okay, well, he's looking.
But I'm going to go, let's hit those tropical woods.
Okay.
So Paduk, Zebra Wood, Purple Heart. You know, I think for the most part, we've got a couple things there. One is that some woods, some tropical woods have a natural oil in them. Before you do gluing or finishing, you want to make sure that any of that oil is off. And denatured alcohol will generally cut through that. So we can denatured alcohol, light sanding, apply finish. Finishes that I would normally use on any North American hardwood, lacquer, polyurethane, furniture oils, I would be okay with using on those tropical woods as well. Purple Heart, part of the problem with that is we get that lovely purple when it's freshly cut, and then with oxidation and UV light, it gets darker and darker and darker over time, and I don't have a good solution for preventing that if that's what you're looking for. It just seems to inherently darken. I possibly put the other finish in the wrong spot because they're unable to find it. With the pen question, what I was searching for as a product, having them search for, was a product called Mylands Friction Polish. I've used this on stuff I've turned a gazillion times. People have probably seen it on turning videos. MY, now it's in a bottle that flat out says Mylands on it. MYLANDS. You can Google that. And what happens is you put it on wet, then polish it with a dry rag while the lathe is spinning. Friction polish, so it needs some heat of friction, and it'll really come up to an amazing shine. The other thing that you can try is using CA, cyanoacrylate glue, as a finish on pens. What's cool with CA glue is you get this pretty plasticized finish on there. So obviously a pen is something that you're going to handle a lot, and handling is a thing that can ruin finish. So with CA glue and that plasticized coating, the shine really holds up. And you can look for videos on CA glue as a pen finish on WWGOA. I've done it at least twice, probably 3 or 4 times, specifically on pens. And there is a real specific technique that you want to follow for that. Here comes George with the nylons. So if you can give us a tight shot just on the label, Krista, that'll help. And if you want to throw another question out while you're zooming.
Yeah.
So there's the friction polish that I was talking about. I love this stuff. It's a great finish for turned items.
So we have a real quick question that I know is not going to take any setup. Quite a few people are talking about that they are making projects, they're making woodworking things that they want to sell, and they don't know where to go. And I know you don't really sell too much stuff, but they'd like to know what you think about that. Quite a few people, Amazon, eBay, I don't know.
Good luck.
Okay, yeah, see, I knew it. I knew it.
Here's my, I guess, so my advice would be, first thing I would do around here is start knocking on doors, meaning going to retail stores, seeing if they'll take stuff on consignment. You're probably going to give up about a 35% consignment fee or so. One of the guys who writes for Woodworkers Guild, AJ Moses, he's got stuff in quite a number of stores, and he sells a lot of stuff that way. So the bad news is you're giving up that percentage in the commission, the consignment fee. The good news is you don't have to take a credit card. You don't have to sit in the store. You don't have to have a brick and mortar location that people can come to. So you're eliminating those overhead costs on your part and just doing the part you like, which is the woodworking part. I have never put anything I've made on Etsy. I've never put anything I've made on eBay, but there are people out there who have significant eBay stores who have beautiful stuff on Etsy. One of our editors, Paul Mayer, was talking about a really nice bowl he saw on Etsy just the other day. So I'm going to assume that because it's marketed there, that's a marketplace for it. So you just got to dip your toe in the water and try a couple different things. I wouldn't try one. I'd try 2 or 3 or 4 different stores, 2 or 3 or 4 different venues to try your stuff.
Okay, thank you very much. John would like to know, what is a shooting board and what was it used for? Well,
thanks to John, this is like the one hand tool question I can probably answer. I'm gonna walk around a little bit. I'm not leaving. I'm just getting stuff. And I don't think I can send George for this stuff because I don't think he has ever used it. So there's a shooting board. And I got to get a tool to use with the shooting board. Coming right back. Don't go away.
Well, while you're gathering, we have a shout out from New Zealand.
Wow.
Watching and loving it, and a viewer from Portugal.
Wow. Very cool. International traffic.
Australia, New Zealand, and Portugal today.
We use shooting boards a lot. So I taught woodworking with the Peace Corps overseas, and that was all hand tool work. No electricity in the shop. And we use shooting boards like this in order to clean up end grain. So we would cross cut it with a handsaw, and then with the shooting board, so this would be a good zoom, Krista, and tell me if I'm am or am not in the wrong spot.
Perfect.
The wooden component here is the shooting board, low angle block plane, and if I have my plane set correctly, so I think I have taken off too much material there. And I might have grabbed, we'll see how sharp this one is. So you can tell I don't use hand tools really. Too much material. Hang on, we're gonna get it. Because it's pretty cool when it works. It's simpler than I'm making it look. So what happens is with that shearing action of the plane, we can clean up the end grain, square up the end this way and this way, as long as the shooting board was built square. The other thing, the reason this one's got this other gizmo on it, get in there, is if I have something cut at a miter, then I can shoot the miter to clean it up. The other thing we can use a shooting board for is material can go this way. This board is too long for my jig. And then I can shoot the long grain to clean that up. This is the one I should have shown you because long grain is so much easier to cut than end grain. So that's a shooting board. That's what it's used for. And now you know why I so infrequently use hand tools, because I just don't do it enough to be great at it.
Thank you. Just a reminder, we're going to go another 15, 20 minutes to make up for our snafu earlier.
Hey, I want to do the I want to do the reindeer thing again.
Okay, while you're getting that, can I ask a very easy question?
Fire away.
Tim wants to know, what is the best way for someone who is handy, mechanically inclined, but just learning woodworking to improve their skills?
Wow. Go to WWGOA.com and watch every video that we have ever made, read every article that we ever wrote. The internet is a bounty of information. So sites like ours have a lot of information on there. I would then also look beyond kind of the standard videos and articles. I would look at the online classes. We've got woodworking classes offered online. It's in the drop-down menus, it says shop, and then classes are under that drop-down. You can also look in your area for hands-on classes. Some retail stores offer that, some private individuals offer that. And the thing is, it's all about practice, 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 practice. It's like any skill. So find something that you really like doing and focus an aspect of woodworking, and initially just focus on that and get good at that, and then add another skill and another skill and another skill. Online education is really big today, and it's a great way to start. So with Reindeer, I want to mention, we, Woodworkers Guild, are doing a reindeer related contest. So if you go on WWGOA.com, projects is one of the headers, plans and projects, click on that. One of the drop downs is post haste projects. You'll find this reindeer in there. There's a video, and then there's also this you can print out. What we want you to do, we want to see your reindeer. So cut out a reindeer, take a picture of it, go to the Woodworkers Guild Facebook page, send us the picture of your reindeer, and then somewhere around the 28th of December, we're going to do a random drawing among those entries, among those photos, and the person who wins, I guess this is a prize, is going to get 30 minutes of one-on-one Skype or FaceTime with me, so we can look at stuff in your shop, you can show me projects, I can answer your questions as best I can, but it'll be one-on-one. It won't be the general public, it'll just be you and I.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. We have a question, and it looks like a doozy. It sounds like this gentleman has tried, or woman, I don't know, has tried to get an answer to this, and nobody is able to answer the question. So let's see if this is Stump George. Oh, we could do that. Stump George. That would be actually, hey, everybody.
Oh, sorry, we're out of time. Let's go.
Next time, Stump George questions. Okay.
That's a sucker bet because it's so easy to do.
Okay. How do you fix the wobble or run out on a drill press? That is the question.
I don't think you can.
Oh.
I think, well, so I'll back up a couple of steps. Assuming that the bearings in the quill of the drill press are okay, then the run out is maybe, so where's the run out coming from? Is the shaft itself in the quill bent? Is the chuck itself out of round? With most drill presses, you can separate the drill chuck from the quill. Let's do a spin around here, Krista, and we'll get a visual on this. So just point toward the drill press over here now. Do a little housekeeping. All right, so if you come into the head right there.
Yep, I'm
all right,
right there.
There's our quill. There's our chuck. Very commonly, the chuck is on a shaft the shaft is tapered, and it's got here we've got an external taper. Up in the quill, we've got an internal taper, not unlike the headstock or tailstock on a lathe. So generally, when you see these tapered things that come with your drill chuck, it looks like a tapered thing that comes with your drill press. That allows you to separate these two. And the taper is so that somewhere on here we can drive that in, push this down, and remove it. So if the bearings here are okay, maybe your drill chuck is simply out of round, maybe the shaft it's connected to is bent. If you can separate those and then try a new chuck and shaft, maybe that'll fix it. So I shouldn't have been so flippant at the start of the answer. But that's, I guess, what I would look for is, and I don't know that there's a way to determine conclusively, is the run out here or is the run out here up in your quill? And that's why I started with, if these bearings were good, then I guess I'd be suspect of the shaft and the chuck.
Great. Okay, Jim wants to know, what is the best mask to use when painting or cutting certain woods? He bought a 3M paint respirator with 5P71 filters. Does that make sense? 5P71 filters to use or paint.
Okay, so let's kind of swing this way. They're seeing a part of the shop they may have never seen before. But I'm going to grab this, the bathrooms. I'm going to grab this, and then I'm going to head back to the.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to point out some of these questions, I think we've already answered some of them in the past. So just a reminder to everyone, you can go to YouTube and find our other videos, and some of your questions might be on there. So if you're thinking, well, why aren't we answering the questions? We may have already answered them in a different live session.
Yeah. And to Krista's credit here, we're getting, how many questions do you have in front of you? Like
a lot.
100? I mean, yeah. So she's triaging question after question after question and trying to get it to fit my knowledge base. That's the hard part, is asking me stuff she thinks I can answer. So we've got a couple different things going here, I think. We've got particulates and we've got fumes. So this is a particulate mask I wear quite a bit, primarily when I'm turning. Brand, it's a Trend Air Shield Pro. It's a Darth Vader thing. Goes on like this. It's got an onboard motor, onboard filters, pushes clean air over you. This is good for particulates. It doesn't help you with VOCs. With VOCs, I'm going to advise you to go to a finishing store, like a company like Sherwin-Williams is a national chain. I would go to them and say, here's what I'm doing. Here's the finish I'm applying. Do you have a beard? Do you not have a beard? What do we need to do to get a good seal on the face? I think typically they're more of a carbon-based filter, but I'm not 100% sure of that, and I don't want to give wrong information. So I would ask at a specialty store, like a paint store or a finish store, and get advice from them on what the best one is to wear. Really, you got to make sure for finish, it's not a particulate mask is not going to help you with VOCs.
Thank you. How many do you want to do? How many? 3 more questions, maybe?
Well, what time did we? What did the computer clock say when we finally?
7:26.
7:26. Oh, and it's like 8:26 now. Okay. Well, do we have anything from Kayleen? I mean, you don't have a way to like look at.
No, she hasn't called or anything. Okay. So those home improvement questions, I think we're just going to table for now. Sorry, guys. And
then, sure. So let's give it, 3 more questions, and then we'll do a wrap up.
Thank you. Okay. So we have a question from a gentleman. Oops. He spilled some water on his wife's 40-year-old teak table.
Where's he living now?
I don't know. And he wants to know the best way to get that off, maybe without chemicals if possible, to fix the water ring.
Well, there's a pretty big it depends. So I'm assuming we're not worried about so much about it's on the table as it's on the finish of the table.
Probably.
Water stain the finish. So 40-year-old, is it then maybe finished with shellac? Shellac doesn't have a great water resistance. So if the water got on there and it really marked it up fast, here's what you can do to determine if it's shellac. Take a Q-tip, dip it in denatured alcohol, and in some inconspicuous spot on the table where there is finish, but people aren't going to see what you're doing, like underneath. Just start swabbing the finish and see if it dissolves. If denatured alcohol dissolves it, it's probably shellac. If denatured alcohol doesn't dissolve it, then the next thing you could try is dip a Q-tip in lacquer thinner, see if it dissolves it. If it does, then it's probably lacquer. If neither of those dissolves it, then it's probably something in the varnish polyurethane family, in which case the water probably wouldn't have had as adverse effect anyway. So with shellac finishes, I learned this from Dave McKintrick, one of our writers, and he's done a lot of video work with us. Shellac will dissolve very readily under denatured alcohol and can really be reconstituted. So you could try, if you determine that it's shellac, you could try denatured alcohol on a rag and then wipe that surface, dissolve the shellac, and just let it kind of melt back into itself, and then stop. And just kind of push it around as it's dissolved to redistribute it and get that finish flat again, and then see how it looks. It's possible that you'd have to go over it again. Then the question is going to be, when you've got a waxed shellac, it's dicey because stuff won't stick to it. So then you're going to have to do some more testing in inconspicuous areas to see what kind of finish would possibly stick to what you have on there if you have to add more finish. But if it's shellac, I would try just dissolving that top surface to get that water mark out and see if you can just take that existing finish and rework it.
All right. Mark has a question that he was given a piece of birch tree approximately 16 inches tall with a magnificent burl that wraps all the way around it. He wants to know, what is the best way to clean out all the nooks and crannies without destroying any of the features of the burl? He wants to make sure there aren't any bugs hiding in it, and he wants to put some kind of finish on it to display it in the living room.
I think it's not possible, and you should just send it to me to save yourself. I'm going to take one for the team, and I'm going to take the birch burl off your hand. So birch burl, seeing if I have it. If you don't know what this is, when you see a tree and it's got like a big wart on it, that's a burl. The cool thing with that is the grain inside there will probably be spectacular. Was it Mark, Krista? Was that right? It sounds like Mark doesn't want to cut it up into a bowl blank, which is just crazy. He wants to keep it as a burl. So I would go in the route of a power washer. If you don't own a power washer and you don't want to rent one just for this, start with a high pressure nozzle on a garden hose and just wash that outside and try to get all the junk off of it. When I was running my sawmill a lot, I would power wash the outside of the logs to get sticks and dirt and stones out of them so that when I ran the chainsaw mill, I wasn't hitting that crap. Same idea. Just try high pressure water. And then was there a second part of that question, or did I do it?
He wants to finish it.
Okay.
Just put a little finish on it.
Then I think you're going to have to spray it, because my guess is going to be you've got an irregular surface, and to brush or wipe on any finish on there, it's going to be hard to get it consistent. So I would, after it thoroughly dries, I mean, you got to give it a lot of dry time after the power wash, get an aerosol can of lacquer or polyurethane from a home center or finishing store and spray that outside to seal it up, and that'll be pretty cool. And congratulations on a birch burl. That's cool.
Okay, so this is our last question, I think, because we said 3, and actually quite a few people have been asking this, so we can kind of...
It's one question covering many submitters.
Right. So quite a few people are asking, they're beginning woodworkers, or they're on a budget, or they have a small area to work, and they would like to know the best way to organize the shop, use the wall space, etc., etc.
Okay.
So we can do a quick tour, maybe.
Okay. So let's start with what are called work triangles, and this is a very important part of laying something out. And if you own a kitchen, you've probably already used a work triangle. So the work triangle in your kitchen is probably sink, countertop, stove. And then a lot of times work triangles overlap, like stove, refrigerator, countertop. So in a shop, think in terms, as you're positioning your tools, think in terms of what tools do you commonly use together. So examples would be jointer, table saw, miter saw. So we want to put those in a proximity where we can easily get from one tool to the other. Then maybe there's a bench in there somewhere, table saw, jointer, bench. The bench overlaps with the miter saw and the planer, so that we're getting stuff set up, like I said, in those work triangles. And you're welcome to pan around the shop and show them, Krista. And my qualifier is going to be, remember that we do video work in here.
Yeah.
So the way that my shop is set up for video is not the way I would set it up for my own woodworking. I do not have a lot of work triangles going in here because that doesn't really lend itself to when the crew is here. With wall space, why don't you go ahead and point that way and get up high there on that. Krista's giving you that pegboard up high. Pegboard is just so darn cheap. It's easy to hang. It offers a lot of options because it's full of a gazillion holes. So it's a great way to get stuff up on the wall. I tend to hang stuff up high that I'm not going to use often. And then if you go to the opposite wall, behind the table saw, stuff that I use very often, I keep lower and more accessible. And then, of course, try to keep it close to whatever I'm going to use it for. So most of the stuff on that wall are table saw related jigs. If you go on WWGOA.com and there's a search window in the upper right hand corner and you search work triangle, try that. We did a video on a work triangle when my shop was in a different configuration and shot it from up high so you could really see how that triangle makes sense. But think about where your material is going to be stored, where it's going to come in. Try to eliminate steps is what you're doing. So for me, most of my material is back that way, and probably the first tool it's going to see is the table saw. That's why the table saw is so close to that door. Then as it starts to get processed, it comes out to other tools.
Yeah, right.
All right. I'm gonna hit the reindeer one more time. I'm driving the reindeer nuts. But if you didn't see this already, we're doing a contest through Facebook. So the contest is we're providing the video and the plan for these reindeer. Go to WWGOA and you can either search WWGOA.com and you can either search reindeer or projects and plans, drop-down menu, post-haste projects, drop-down menu, reindeer. What we want you to do is print this out, make a reindeer or two or a herd, take a picture of it, go to the Facebook page, submit your picture. Somewhere around the 28th of December, we're going to do a random drawing, and the prize for the drawing is going to be 30 minutes, one-on-one Q&A via Skype or FaceTime.
With me.
With Krista.
Just kidding.
Because you'll get way better answers. 30 minutes, one-on-one Skype or FaceTime with me. You can show me stuff in your shop, ask your questions, and then are we getting set up for a really cool close? Because I'm going to bring our...
So we've got, just so you know, I want to remind everybody we have a lot of home improvement questions. Kayleen was not able to make it tonight due to an accident. We're hoping to get her next time, so we're going to table those. Also, we have a lot of questions that we've answered previously, so I don't want anybody to feel like we're intentionally not asking them, but they could actually be out on the YouTube videos, so check there. And again, yep, we get a ton of questions, so I'm trying to get through them all. And if I didn't get to yours tonight, join us next time, stick it on. We'll try and get to them if we haven't already covered them in the past. So
the lives are archived on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and you just search WWGOA Live, I think there are 4 or 5 in the can already, and they're all up on there. So like Krista said, some of this stuff, we're not ignoring anybody, but we only have an hour, and I think we covered a lot of questions tonight, but it's a finite amount of time.
Yep. And then, we like to do where's people viewing from. So we've got a couple from Australia, New Zealand, Portugal. We have Poland tonight. I think that might be new. Yeah.
I've heard that before.
California, Mississippi, Michigan, Ohio, Texas, all over the United States. So
is Texas still in the United States?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So send us, guys, comment down here if you are viewing from somewhere really cool, because George gets super excited.
I think that's great. International audience.
Yeah.
And we love the U.S. viewers, but it's really cool we have an international audience.
Okay. And I think we're doing this again next month.
We're going to try to do it again in January. We'll either try for Kayleen again, or Mark, the boat builder, might be with us from his boat building shop in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Right, and just make sure you go out to WWGOA.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. There's articles, there's magazines, there's magazine articles. Oh my gosh. There's videos.
And articles.
And all sorts of
classes.
Stuff. And classes.
And products.
Right.
A lot of the stuff I use on the videos is sold in the store online.
Yeah, so go out there, like us, follow us, sign up for the newsletter.
We like to be liked.
We have a free newsletter for you guys. So, and then we'll see you next time, right?
I'm fading out.
Oh yeah, fading out.